Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Well, we are in the middle of winter right now, and most anglers out there will tell you that if you're gonna choose a crankbait, you should go with a flat-sided crankbait that produces less movement, looks more natural in the water, and generally can produce very well in the cold water period. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to throw a flat side. In fact, there are a lot of times where I really love to throw some of your big, wide wobbling crankbaits, and it's pretty simple as to why. And that is because those baits generate much better reaction strikes than the flat sided crankbaits. And there are times during your cold water period when the fish are at their most lethargic state of the year, you got to wake them up. And if you put a wide wobbling crankbait that is going to be really darting all over the place, those are the baits that are going to trigger those fish into becoming active, or at least feeding out of more of that reactionary instinct in them, then you'll get out of your flat-sided crank. So I'm here to tell you, don't put them away completely. Now, if it were me and I was heading out on the water to fish a bunch of crankbaits during the winter months, I probably would have a flat side and a wide wobbling crankbait. But don't think you gotta only throw flat sides. Now, I want to give you some of my favorite ones to throw. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app, which will help you select the best fishing places in the lake with features like the lake level, the current flow, the top baits tool, which will help you select the best baits for certain locations throughout the lake. Whether that's a clear water, stained water, dirty water, it'll choose the best bait for that location, provide you with all the information like what structure, what retrieve, different reel, all of the information that you need to catch the fish. This is in the app. The cool part about this app, though, is it's not just based on areas. It does provide you with specific tournament winning data that has been collected to help you figure out your best choices for baits and locations for whatever region of the lake it is that you want to fish. On top of that, not only does the app provide you with best locations, it gives you water clarity as well. So maybe you're on a lake like Lake Eufaula, where there is a bunch of different water clarity located throughout the entire lake. This will help you identify the clearest portions as well as the dirtiest portions of the lake. Plus, the Deep Dive app has now added the wind effect map, which is going to take all of the different wind conditions for the past couple of days and show you what banks on the lake are being hit the hardest. They also have inflow points that show you different places throughout the lake where your water is being flushed into the lake through different ditches and creeks and rivers, providing you with high percentage places to fish and letting you know what parts of the lake are going to be the best areas after a rain. Check out the Deep Dive app to help you become a better angler. There's a lot of really good wide wobbling crankbaits out there, but at the same time, having said that, I'm talking crankbaits that have just crazy side to side motion. They'll actually, when you're retrieving it, they'll actually almost ride up onto the side by themselves and then come back to neutral. And it's a bait that it almost has its own mind. These baits a lot of time will track off to the left, track off to the right, but they're always going to come back and find where they need to go. The key here is that movement, because they're actually swimming left, swimming right, they tend to come into contact with more objects. So if you've got a straight running crankbait, a normal crankbait, or one of your flat sided crankbaits, they're just going to run right back at you. If you throw something like this Berkeley Money Badger, this thing's going to hunt off to the right, maybe come in contact with a rock, hunk back to the left, maybe find a stump that just keeps moving around. You come in contact with a lot more objects, and every time you hit an object, you create a deflection. That deflection is when you might have a fish, if it's nearby, get into a reactionary state and therefore hit your bait because of the movement that this bait is making. So for me, the baits that I'm going to be looking to throw are something like the Berkeley Money Badger right here. This is one of my absolute favorites. One of the, probably the OG of all time is your Wigglewort. This, guys, I'm sure you've heard of. This been around forever. Now, this is the original one. The newer ones that are still made out there are still very good, wide wobbling baits. I personally prefer the originals, but the new ones still catch plenty of fish as well. So you got to be thinking about a Wigglewort. Another one The hybrid hunter, now this one doesn't get quite as deep, but it has an extremely erratic movement, extremely wide wobble. And this bait, and most of these baits, you know, when they turn, it's almost like they turn completely to their left and to their right, almost at a 90-degree angle. But the hybrid hunter is a great one. And then the last one I really like is the Spro rock crawler. Now this guy's got a very similar look and feel to the wigglewort, a little bit bigger as you can see. It does come in a bunch of different variations, but this is another one that is an extremely wide wobbling crankbait. But I can't stress enough how important it is during this cold water period to sometimes have to wake those fish up. Now, the other thing I'm going to add with these is generally your widest wobbling crankbaits do not obtain extreme depths. Most of these baits will get down to that 10-foot range. You know, maybe a few extra feet depending on the model that you have, but you're generally not going to get these really wide wobbling ones down into that 20-foot range. But that's okay, because during this period, you do have a lot of fish that are going to be sitting on some of your channel swings that are going to be anywhere from bank down to 12 foot of water. Your stair stepping rock can be really good. Some of those places where you have, you know, you have like a little ledge that comes out, a 2-foot drop, another little rock ledge, 2-foot drop. Those are great places to be fishing them. Any of your riprap banks, so a lot of your bridge causeways, places where you have your funnels, because you've got that bridge and the creek channel comes through there, that's going to be a really good place to look. Your offshore gravel bars or shell bars, those can be really good. And anytime you've got a bait that's wide wobbling, whether it's coming down rock, it's going to deflect really good, or if you've got those gravel and those shell bars, because it's such a wide wobbling bait, it's almost like the bait will dig down in, and it just creates a lot of commotion. It's one of those things that can trigger those fish really into biting. But the wide wobbling crankbait, guys, absolutely can be dynamite in water temps that are below 55 degrees. A lot of people out there will tell you not to switch to really wide wobbling crankbaits until that 55-degree mark. And that solely has to do with the fact that that's when most of your crayfish start coming out of hibernation. And a lot of people would say that your wide wobbling crankbaits best imitate crayfish, and they absolutely do. That's why I agree with that completely. But just because the crayfish may not be out in full numbers doesn't mean that the bass still won't eat these when they see it. And a lot of times we're talking about those days where you have a nice warm front or a really good sunny, flat, calm day where you do get a little bit of water warming, and that's going to push the fish up into a little bit shallower water, and that's where you'll see these bigger, wider wobbling crankbaits really thrive. And that's something you can say multiple times as a tongue twister: wider wobbling crankbaits. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. Don't put away your wide wobbling crankbaits in the winter. You can still use them. I'll put links to each of these baits in the video description for you. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.